Hi, I'm Dan Schuetram, Professor of Agribusiness at Cal Poly SLO here on California's Central Coast. I'm here to create a greater understanding of international trade. What does it look like? How does it work? And who's involved? And most importantly, are we taking it for granted? Here in California, agriculture feels local. I'm surrounded on all sides by farms and agricultural production. But no matter how many times we're told to buy local, the truth of the matter is that farmers need customers, and not just the ones that live nearby. In some cases, the most important customers live far on the other side of the world. And in California, that's especially true for our tree nuts, almonds, pistachios, walnuts. In those cases, we're a major global source of that product, and we export great quantities all over the world. The reality is that modern agriculture is entirely dependent on international trade. Our growers need large sources of demand for their products. Our ports need goods coming in so that we can empty those containers and fill them up with our exports. And the logistics behind international transactions are as fascinating as they are complicated. I'm setting out on a journey to understand how international trade really works. We'll visit the Central California pistachio orchards, the enormous Port of Rotterdam, and the incredible flower auction of the Netherlands. So I've got to be honest, I'm no professional. Well, I am. I'm an expert in economics and markets and agriculture, but I'm no videographer. I'm filming this all on my own with my phone and a tripod, so there will be hiccups. Will I film something out of focus? Absolutely. Will I interview a gentleman in a high-rise building and get interrupted by window washers? Yes, that happened. Will people walk between my interview and the camera? Many times. But here's what I do bring: expert insights from very different and very strategic points in the international agriculture supply chain. And together, these voices provide a rare but authentic view of international trade. So let's go. First stop, I'm on my way to Firebaugh in California's San Joaquin Valley. Here I'll meet with the head of Meridian Growers, a sales and marketing company that processes and sells millions of pounds of pistachios every year to customers in the US and around the world. Pistachios and almonds may be the agricultural crops most sensitive to international trade disruptions. California is the major source of global supply, and the vast majority of our production is exported. Hi, I'm here with Jim Zion of Meridian Growers, expert in the pistachio market, and have a few questions about international trade, the role of international trade, and how important foreign customers are to the pistachio market. So to start out, how important would you say California is in the pistachio market? What portion of global production comes out of California?
We're about 76% of the world's pistachios come from the United States. Mm-hmm. We're the biggest producer by far. The next largest would be Iran at about 200 to 220,000 metric tons, 440 to 500. Turkey will do plus or minus, that depends. It's hard to get correct numbers out of them. The Spanish crop this year looks to be about 9,000 metric tons, about 20 million pounds. Australia's a producer, but they pretty much consume everything internally, very little exports. And then you've got some small production in Syria, Lebanon, some down in Argentina, but by far we are the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Okay, great. And then what portion of pistachio production from California is destined for foreign markets? How much goes over to international customers?
Yeah, we run anywhere between 70 to 75%, depending on the marketplace. So the bulk of the pistachios that are produced in California, Arizona, go to overseas markets.
Would you say the industry is dependent on foreign customers? If there's an interruption with consumption from abroad, what would that mean to the California pistachio industry?
Definitely, we are global, we are export centric. I mean, we obviously look at the domestic market, but the domestic market has been fairly flat. We're hoping to change that with some of the health messaging, but the industry that as of today is very dependent on the export marketplaces. Yes.
Great. So if something disrupted exports, what would that mean in the immediate term?
Well, we're living in an experiment right now. Literally, we were in Europe, we were in Spain for the Tree Nut Conference, and the discussion was about the disruption they may have caused through the trade war that we're in. I'll call it trade war. We assumed, we had looked at if we had maintained the 125% duty that China had placed on US exports, we were probably going to shave anywhere from $800 to $1.2 billion off the value of the crop.
Just pistachios
Just
alone.
pistachios, because of we would have been locked out of the Chinese marketplace. Hopefully, it looks like there seems to be a resolution. The next big one is Europe. Europe is one of our second largest markets. They have put pistachios on the list for retaliatory tariffs. It was taken off, but it looks like it's going to be put back on. Mm-hmm. We don't know what that means, but Europe, any disruption, it could shave off another $250 to $300 million of the value. So we are living in an experiment right now, which I think really touches on the fact that you mentioned, that we are very export dependent.
So if we consider a situation where we have disruption to pistachio exports, if that disruption lasts longer than a blip, maybe months or years, what would that look like for the pistachio industry if we have a long-term disruption in our export market?
Yeah, it would. Well, the issue is that with us having 76% of the production, most in consuming countries, we're going to have to come to us eventually. But it would change consumption patterns and shipping patterns. Mm-hmm. You know, we were all there in Spain trying to go, well, if we can't get into China, do they go and have it reprocessed in Malaysia, Southeast Asia, for instance? Mm-hmm. So instead of shipping to China, we're going to be shipping to Malaysia, Vietnam, or whatever. So it does change patterns. Mm-hmm. What we were also concerned with the disruption in the bilateral trade between the United States and China, we were looking at a limitation of actual containers that we would come into California ports, we could ship product back. Mm.
Right, so your concern is you need containers full of stuff coming to the United States to then get emptied, so you've got empty boxes to put your pistachios in to send back across the ocean.
Yeah, and then the current administration has floated the idea of putting fees on Chinese carriers, mm-hmm. vessels, that would be by container ship or by box or whatever it is. That will eventually be paid by us. Mm-hmm. The container companies are going to say, okay, you as the exporter pay that. Mm-hmm. We were looking at a potential increase of $300 to $500 per container. Mm-hmm. So that would add another 2 or 3 cents to the cost of exporting.
And then our Chinese vessels, are they a majority of ocean-going shipping vessels?
By far.
By far.
By
okay.
far.
Yep. Okay. Is there any realistic way to shift more product into the domestic market if exports get slowed down significantly, or would that just drive prices down?
That would drive prices down. I mean, the U.S. is a big consumer, but you're looking at 250 million pound market, and we're going to produce 1.6 billion pounds this year. Mm-hmm. So I can't, unless everybody's willing to eat 40 pounds of pistachios a year, which I would love to, I just don't see that taking place in a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. So no, the domestic market can't absorb what we're producing in the United States at this point.
So what about storage? How long could you safely store these nuts and then hopefully sell them if everything blows over? Is that a year, 2 years, months?
Usually we say pistachios go about 18 months. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're unlike fresh fruit, some other commodities, we are non-perishable per se. Mm-hmm. So we do have a little bit longer time frame that we can work through the process. But the issue is eventually you got to turn it into cash because growers need money mm-hmm. to grow those trees. Right. And to pay for their living. Mm-hmm. So you got to convert it to cash at some point.
Right. You can't wait forever.
Can't wait forever.
Yeah. So I think my last question is, I have a vague idea of how this international shipping and logistics works, but can you describe for me how a nut gets from the orchard across the street to a consumer in Copenhagen or South Korea or Shanghai?
We'll start harvesting in Arizona mid-August. Here we'll start harvesting typically on Labor Day. Mm-hmm. That's the 5th of September is always the starting gun. Yep. So the product comes off the tree. I've got 12 hours to get it from the tree through my plant. Because it's semi-perishable, it has a wet hull on it that has mm-hmm. to be taken off. So it comes in and we go through a hulling and drying. We remove the hull, we dry it down to about 9%. Here we're a little unique because we do all the processing all at one time. Most plants will take that hull dry product, put it in those 2 million pound silos, and then spend the rest of the year cleaning it up. Mm-hmm. We clean up on the fly. Mm-hmm. So when it goes in these silos, it's a finished good. So when we get an order, we'll bring that product out. We'll do a quick inspection, robotic inspection for any last minute defects or the customer wants a little bit different spec than standard. Mm-hmm. Then we'll pack either in 1 metric ton super sacks, these big bags, mm-hmm. or a 25 pound or 12 kg case. So we put in a container, the container goes to the port, usually Long Beach, LA or Oakland or sometimes mm-hmm. out of Houston, and then it goes on a cargo vessel. Into China, Asia, it's usually a 25 to 35 day transit time. Mm-hmm. Europe, it's getting longer, it's 45 to 60. Part of that was because of the disruption going through the Suez Canal and the Red Sea.
Right.
Hopefully that's been resolved, which will shorten that time frame. So usually from the time of shipping here to consumers, it's about 60 days in Asia, it's about 75 to 90 days in Europe.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jim. Really
You're welcome.
appreciate it. This has been a real great crash course on pistachios, and I hope everything goes well for the industry going forward.
I hope so. As of yesterday, it looked pretty good.
Yeah, good.
We'll see what happens.
Now I'm curious. We've learned quite a bit about pistachio production and the logistics of shipping this product as an export, but what about the next stop along the way? What happens when they arrive at a foreign port? To find out, I'm heading to the Port of Rotterdam, the largest port in Europe. What do trade disruptions mean for our global ports? Will our pistachios continue to flow into this important market? What about the goods from Europe that we hope to see on our grocery store shelves? To find out, I'll be speaking with Kenzo van Maris, Business Manager of Transatlantic Trade at the impressive Port of Rotterdam.
My name is Kenzo van Maris. I'm with the Port of Rotterdam. I work within the commercial department and the containerized trade, and I focus on shippers and forwarders as well as the transatlantic trade.
So Kenzo, can you give us an overview of Port of Rotterdam's role in international trade and what actually takes place here at this port?
Yeah, sure. So the Port of Rotterdam used to be the biggest port in the world. Of course, a lot of production shifted to Asia, so that's where the most dominant ports in the world are now, but nevertheless, we're the biggest port in Europe. We handle about 480 million tons of throughput, and that's a combination of both containerized trade, but also bulk products. So dry bulk, liquid bulks. We import a lot of energy here in Rotterdam. 13% of the European demand for energy is imported here in Rotterdam. So that makes us very diversified. And when we look at Port of Rotterdam, we play a huge role for Europe. The Netherlands is the number 5th country in the world when it comes to imports, and number 7 in the world when it comes to exports. And that's not because we consume so much with 18 million people. That's actually because we're a huge logistics hub and distribution function for Europe. And that goes for both the import and the exports. If we look at containerized trade, last year we did 13.8 million TEU, 20-foot equivalent units. So that's a lot of boxes, 25 of them every minute. And we're quite balanced when it comes to imports and exports. We have 48% of import containers and 50% of export.
So when you say that you are one of the largest exporters and largest importers, goods are passing through the Netherlands, is that correct?
Yeah.
And so how significant is trade with the United States to your port and to your clients, particularly in food and agriculture?
Now, definitely. So the trade with the US is fairly stable. It has been roughly 1.1 million TEUs per year on an annual, with regards to Europe transatlantic trade to the US. It's quite balanced. The biggest commodity we handle in the Port of Rotterdam is food or non-food stuffs. 1 out of 3 containers actually is carrying food, so it's really contributing to everything we eat here in Europe, but the same goes for the US, because we export a lot of food as well. Think about a lot of potatoes come from here, a lot of French fries actually are being shipped, but also products from our greenhouses such as tomatoes, and also a very nice beer from the Netherlands being served in the US.
We appreciate that.
Yeah, the same goes for us. It's a big market for us. It's I would say 15% of our volume goes across the Atlantic.
A lot of people that I talk to, friends, family, even students, they ask me, what are the impacts of raising tariffs? How do they work? What do they do? And really the questions are, who, what, where, when, why? How do these things work? Could you explain just, in detail how a tariff works, who pays it, what it means, where that all happens, and how that takes place?
Well, what they do is eventually they'll raise the price. And the person who is going to pay is the end consumer. It's fairly simple because, to a certain extent, the producer might be able to say, okay, we'll cover a bit of we'll take our loss on the margin, but they can't cover all of it unless they take huge dips on their profit margins. And that's not feasible for the long run. So what we see with producers here is that they are able to say, okay, for now we'll take a 50-50 approach. So the increase of the tariff on exporting our product to the US we'll take half of that, we'll take it out of our own pockets, but the other half has to be paid by the importing company. That importing company has to sell it again to the consumers, and the consumer will see the price tag raise in the supermarket or wherever they purchase their goods.
So it's always the importer that pays the tariff to the government, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. So from your perspective, how has the sudden change in trade policy from the US, particularly the increase in tariffs, and there's also been fees on vessels from certain countries of origin, how has that been received in Europe?
So within Europe, people that have been exporting to the US are worried. Also, because it's changing the dynamics of how good can they sell their products in the future. Changing with the tariffs in such a short notice, and also with numbers going all over the place, it's very uncertain how an exporter can actually take this into their business operations. And can they continue to sell the product abroad? And if we look at, for example, the fashion segment right now, it's especially the luxury segment, it's heavily under pressure because consumer faith is down, because of all these worries about the tariffs, and well, the prices will go up of these goods. So if we look at the European perspective, they are looking for answers. Do we level the tariffs? What do we do? But it's only making more uncertainty, and eventually I think this will be a disadvantage for global trade as we know it, because it has brought forward a lot of products that we use on a daily basis, shipped by containers. They are adding value to our daily lives, and we could have probably not purchased those goods at the same price point if it wasn't for global trade and free trade agreements.
You may have heard the phrase, you can't uncook an egg. There are some things, some decisions you make that are irreversible. We could certainly reduce these tariff rates in the future, but are there any changes that may persist in the future? Have countries shifted their trade patterns in such a degree that we may not get those back?
That's an interesting question, Daniel, because in the long run, people they want certainty for their business. And when a president is elected every 4 years and is changing the trade, is changing trade and trade's being impacted so much, that's not very sustainable in the long run. So that makes producers think about, where do we produce, where do we ship it, or who's buying our products. So what we have seen in the past is the moving away from China with all the political on the political stand view. So many factories have been shifted to other countries in Asia to produce from there to Europe. We've even seen for some segments, such as a small part of the fashion segment, actually being brought back to Europe, to Portugal and Spain, where fine quality clothing is now being made, reducing the supply chain, just because they want more certainty in their products. Because if you're uncertain if you're going to get your goods on time or at what price point, how will you keep your business running for a longer period of time? I'm not so sure. Yeah.
From an exporter in the United States, the U.S. hasn't imposed tariffs in such a way that it affects our exports, but it's the response from other countries we might be worried about. Have you seen any response from other countries here in Europe or other countries around the world that have responded to the U.S. shift in trade policy that might affect our growers in California?
Not at this point in time, especially not on the food commodities. I think there have been some impacts on, for example, automotive segment, but not too much on the food. And it will impact also the imbalance of equipment. And that's something we probably don't directly think of, but those containers will have to be returned to the location of production, preferably filled with other goods, to be repositioned and reused again for your pistachio exporter. I would say that the Netherlands and the US actually have the longest trade relation within any countries the US has it with. So it's the longest friendship that's been around. Of course, we always celebrate on the 4th of July, but we also always remember this as a very strong relation that's always been friendly, always been helping each other out, but also trading with each other. So in the end, in the global trade, you need good partners, and the world is too small to do it on your own.
It certainly seems like the international shipping community craves certainty and predictability. Next stop for us is an incredible marvel of logistics, an absolute microcosm of international trade. We're heading to Royal FloraHolland, the Dutch flower auction. This is the global trading hub for fresh cut flowers, which takes in, auctions off, and ships out over 30 million flowers on a typical weekday. The process begins early in the morning, so I'm off by bus to Aalsmeer, Netherlands to see it happen. I'll be speaking with Michel van Schie about how the facility works, how it evolved, and how important free trade is to facilitating the global trade in fresh flowers. My bus broke down on the way over here, so I have to walk in the rest of the way. But this is one of the world's largest buildings. It is many acres of floor space, and every morning flowers from all over the world get flown in the bellies of cargo planes and passenger planes, and they go through a process where they're graded, purchased, and then sent out for shipment back around the world to far off countries in distant lands and elsewhere in Europe. And all this process takes maybe a couple hours every single morning, and we're going to see how it all works.
My name is Michel van Schie and I'm a spokesman at Royal FloraHolland.
Great.
That's the Dutch flower auction.
Can you tell us briefly what takes place here? What is this facility all about?
The flowers come in between, let's say, yesterday noon and 4 o'clock in the morning. They are auctioned at 6 o'clock, then they're placed in a cooled storage room. When they are auctioned, or going to be auctioned, they will be going out of the storage room, and only then we know, because after the auction we know, someone passing, after the auction we know who the buyers are of the trolley or on the buckets on the trolley. So the buyers, or the logistic workers will scan the trolley, then they hear on their headset directly how many buckets they have to bring to a certain place, which is directly connected with a certain buyer. So they will make their car empty by bringing the flowers to different places in our logistics area. So, and when the car with different products is full, it will be placed in a row to be delivered to the buyer as quickly as possible, and within 2.5 hours after the products are auctioned. So when they are brought to the buyer, then it's of course their duty. They're all located at our premises, and they will try to bring them as quickly to Germany or wherever in Europe.
Where do the flowers come from? Where are they originating before they get here in Aalsmeer, Netherlands?
So the flowers are produced mostly in the Netherlands. The total of 9 billion flowers, 6 billion flowers are produced in the Netherlands, and 3 billion flowers are coming from abroad, mainly from Kenya and Ethiopia and Africa. And there the most important variety is the rose, which is also for us the most important flower. So it's more roses number one.
Okay.
For us, tulip is in numbers number two.
So after the flowers are purchased by buyers, where do the flowers go? What's the destination?
The number one export country for us is Germany. Last year 1.7 billion euro. Second is the UK. France number 3. Number 4 Poland. And number 5 Italy.
Okay. And then do you sell any to the United States?
There are flowers going to the United States. I think that's last year it was 160 million. But of course, that have to be done by airplane to do it quickly. It's possible to transport flowers by sea in containers. That's done from South America to Europe. But we are not using it for outside traffic.
For exports?
So, yeah, we have done some experiments from Kenya by sea to Europe, but because of the conflict in the Middle East, it's not possible to go to the Suez Canal. So that's too dangerous. So that has stopped.
Is it safe to say that your business here is entirely dependent on exports?
Of course, because 85% is export. What's traded at here, and you can imagine that with the country of 70 million people, there is no market for 9 billion flowers.
Yeah,
we
so-
love flowers, but that many it would be too costly.
So from your perspective, how do you view the sudden change in U.S. trade policy, increasing tariffs and possible retaliation from other countries imposing tariffs on the U.S.?
On a total export of, let's say, 7 billion euro, 160 million is of course a percentage, but not that many that it will harm our industry as a whole. Of course, there are companies, export companies, that are specialized in the trade with the US. For them, it can be harmful. But I think that if the people in the US still want to have enough flowers, they are they have to import flowers because there's not enough production in the US itself, I think. And when there are tariffs for the trade from here, there also will be tariffs from Colombia and Ecuador. So I think it will be more harmful for their production than for ours, because we have more options in Europe to.
So you have plenty of places to sell to, and it's
Yeah.
just a single customer that may decrease business somewhat.
Yeah, we have lost the Russian market, and that's also managed.
Yeah, fantastic. Focusing on the flower market, who gains and who loses when tariffs are imposed?
I think that the customer, so the consumer, in the end, is the one who will pay higher prices. So someone has to pay for higher tariffs.
Is there anyone who will be gaining with these tariffs being imposed?
I don't think so.
So do you expect if the United States reverts their trade policy, if tariffs go back down to where they were a few months ago, do you think everything will resume as it was, or are there any changes that may persist into the future?
I think it depends on what the trade companies are going to do, because we are, as Royal FloraHolland, not doing export ourselves. When the flowers come in, they are owned by the grower, and when they leave this building, they are owned by the buyer. and never owned by us. So we only do the intermediate facilities. Trade companies and entrepreneurs, they want to have the confidence that they can make decisions that are based on a stable situation. So if they're not sure that suddenly tariffs will rise again, they would say, I will direct my trades to other countries where I can rely on the policy for the coming period. So I think yeah, that's important for them.
Are there any flowers that you just wouldn't be able to grow in the Netherlands?
Tropical flowers that needs a lot of energy, probably it's better to import them from countries where they have those circumstances.
So we've heard three very unique perspectives about international trade, and from each one we learned something a little bit different. At the pistachio operation, we learned how foreign customers are not just a luxury for U.S. agriculture, they're a necessity. At the Port of Rotterdam, we learned that global trade depends entirely upon predictability and certainty. And at the flower auction, we saw the fascinating logistics that take place every day to facilitate global flower trade. So I hope you've enjoyed watching. I hope you learned something. If you're still curious, there's extended versions of these interviews available online for more details and more in-depth conversation, and yes, a little more shoddy camera work. So thanks for watching, and I hope you join us next time.